Aethelstan was the first ruler who managed to bring England together under one crown, yet the nation he created still lacked many of the defining features we associate with England today. Castles, common law, and the endless rivalries with neighboring powers were yet to emerge. The country had not yet taken its final shape, and another wave of invaders was still to come, bringing with them institutions that would leave a permanent mark on England. Their arrival would transform the political landscape, change the social fabric, and leave behind traditions that survive to this day. The death of Aethelstan left behind a fragile kingdom, vulnerable once more to outside threats. His successor, Edmund I, immediately faced turmoil when in 939 the Norse king Olaf Guthfrithson of Dublin seized York and reclaimed control over northern England. For decades, the North shifted back and forth between Norse and English authority. Among the notable figures of this turbulent era was Eric Bloodaxe, once king of Norway, who briefly ruled York in the 940s. His career represented the continuum, Norse challenge to Anglo-Saxon stability until his death in battle, around 954, finally ended Viking control in York and allowed the kingdom to reunify under English rule. Later, in the 10th century, England enjoyed a rare period of peace under King Edgar the Peaceful. His reign strengthened administration and church reforms, offering stability. Yet when Edgar died in 975, succession disputes returned, leading to the murder of his son Edward the Martyr in 978. The crown passed to the young Ethelred, remembered as the Unready, just as Viking raids grew fierce again. Unlike his predecessors, Ethelred proved indecisive and weak, unable to unite his kingdom against the renewed Danish threat. In 1013, the powerful Danish king Sven Forkbeard invaded. Briefly deposing Ethelred before his sudden death allowed the king to return. But in 1016, Sven's son Canute conquered England and established a Danish dynasty. Under Canute, England enjoyed stability and nearly 2 decades of peace. He treated nobles fairly, invested in armies and fleets, and organized the land into earldoms, ruled by loyal lords. The most powerful among them was Godwin of Wessex. After the death of Canute's sons, the throne passed to Edward, son of Ethelred, remembered as Edward the Confessor. Though pious and kind, Edward was politically weak and left no heir when he died in 1066, leaving the succession open to claimants. The nobles supported Harold Godwinson, son of the powerful Earl Godwin, but his rule was immediately contested. 2 rivals emerged: Harold Hardrada of Norway, who claimed an old promise of the throne, and William, Duke of Normandy, a distant relative who insisted Edward had pledged him the crown. In September 1066, Hardrada invaded but was crushed at the Battle of Stamford Bridge, where Harold Godwinson's men killed the Norwegian king, ending centuries of major Viking invasions. But even as Harold celebrated, William landed in the south, exhausted from marching north and back again. Harold's forces met the Normans at Hastings on October 14th. Superior Norman cavalry and archers overwhelmed the English. Harold was slain in battle and William secured victory. On Christmas Day 1066, William the Conqueror was crowned king in Westminster Abbey. Resistance continued in the north, but William crushed it brutally, leaving swaths of land between York and Durham devastated and empty. With much of the Anglo-Saxon nobility dispossessed, William imposed a new order on England, built on feudalism. He granted land to loyal barons who swore oaths of fealty. Beneath them, knights held smaller estates in return for military service, while peasants tilled the soil under strict obligations. For the common people, life became harsher as taxes increased and freedoms narrowed. The Domesday Book of 1086 recorded in great detail every field, estate, and village, showing how completely Normans had replaced the old nobility. Daily life for peasants remained hard, dependent on agriculture. Villagers were bound to their lord's lands, required to bake in their lord's oven, grind grain at his mill, and provide labor when called upon. Over time, peasants known as villeins came to be regarded as serfs, bound almost like slaves to the estates they worked. Still, gradual changes arrived, such as windmills in the 12th century and the use of horses in farming. Yet Norman rule intruded even further, with harsh forest laws protecting vast areas for royal hunting where peasants could be punished for taking game. The Normans reshaped towns as well. Though most people remained rural, castles became the centers of many new settlements. Dozens of castles dotted the land, both stone fortresses such as Dover and Windsor and smaller wooden motte and bailey structures. Castles served both as protection and as a reminder of Norman dominance, standing watch over often hostile populations. Around these fortresses, towns grew with markets, fairs, and guilds of merchants and craftsmen. Norman England also saw the rise of universities, beginning with Oxford, and a revival of learning influenced by rediscovered classical texts. The church remained a cornerstone of society, though William replaced many leaders with Normans loyal to him, sparking tensions. With the Pope, the question of whether the crown or Rome controlled the English church would continue to trouble kings for generations. William's death in 1087 divided his domains. with England passing to his son William II, known for his cruelty and extravagance. William Rufus was unpopular and died in a suspicious hunting accident in 1100. His brother Henry claimed the throne, continuing heavy taxation but strengthening control over Normandy. Henry named his daughter Matilda as heir, but when he died in 1135, many nobles rejected her and supported Stephen of Blois. Civil war followed in a period known as the Anarchy, where rival nobles acted independently, and the land descended into chaos. Eventually, Matilda's son Henry forced Stephen to recognize him as successor, and in 1154, Henry II began the Angevin dynasty. Henry II ruled a vast realm stretching across England and much of France through his marriage to Eleanor of Aquitaine. His most lasting achievement was the development of English common law. He created royal courts, introduced juries, and reduced trial by ordeal, laying the foundation for a legal system that survives today. Yet his reign was scarred by conflict with Archbishop Thomas Becket, culminating in Becket's murder in Canterbury Cathedral in 1170, an event that shocked Europe and damaged Henry's reputation. Henry expanded influence in Ireland, wrestled with rebellious sons, and fought wars with France and Scotland. His son Richard succeeded him but spent most of his reign abroad on crusade. Known as the Lionheart, Richard barely set foot in England, leaving heavy taxation to fund his campaigns. He died in 1199 and was followed by his brother John, King. John quickly earned infamy. He lost Normandy and other French lands, quarreled with the Pope, raised ruinous taxes, and alienated nobles. By 1215, the barons revolted and forced John to accept Magna Carta at Runnymede. This document, though initially a failed peace treaty, introduced revolutionary ideas. It limited the king's power, protected feudal rights, and established that the monarch was subject to the law. Though originally meant for nobles and the church, its principles gradually extended to wider society and became the cornerstone of English constitutional tradition. John's reign ended in 1216 with his death, leaving his young son Henry III on the throne. England by then had taken on many of the features we recognize today: mighty castles and towns tied to markets, peasants bound in a feudal system, universities and schools shaping learning, a church often in conflict with kings, the tradition of common law, and the precedent of Magna Carta limiting royal authority. Centuries of conquest, rebellion, and reform had forged a nation both turbulent and resilient, standing ready for the long history that lay ahead.